there's a really important distinction with appreciation, because we get this confused in our culture all the time to our own detriment, with our children, with our peers and colleagues, and even with ourselves, is we confuse recognition and appreciation. They're related, but they're not the same thing. Recognition is a subset of appreciation. How many of you like to be recognized? Raise your hand if you like to be recognized. Okay, if you're not raising your hand, you're either not paying attention or you're lying. Now look, I know some of us like recognition more than others. Here's how you know you like to be recognized, by the way. You notice when other people get recognized and you don't. You ever notice that? Now you may not say it out loud, but you think to yourself, how come she got recognized and not me? What's up with that, right? Now, so anyway, most of us like recognition, but here's what recognition is. Recognition is acknowledgement based on results. You produce a result, you get recognized. Now, not all the time, but when we get recognized, it's usually for something that we've done, as it should be. And the thing about recognition is it's scarce by nature. You can't recognize everyone, because then it sort of loses some of its power, its value. If everyone gets recognized, well, it doesn't really mean that much. It doesn't really have that much weight. So as a leader, it's important to figure out how to recognize people effectively. When they do a good job, when they complete a project, they work hard to recognize them. Absolutely. Same thing with our children, our young people. So they get recognized for results and performance, and they know the difference between I succeeded, I did well, versus that I didn't. Now, the problem when we only focus on recognition, though, is we miss out on a whole aspect of not only being able to relate and connect, but a whole important element of appreciation. I'll give you an example from my baseball career. So now, whether you're a baseball fan or not, you probably know what happens to the pitcher, which is the position that I played in the baseball game when the pitcher doesn't do well. You know what happens? Yeah, they stop the game. And in front of everybody, the manager walks out to the mound and takes the ball out of your hand and makes you leave. Right? Can you imagine? Let's say you're working. Let's say you're running a PTA meeting and you're in the middle of it and you're kind of not having a really good night. And all of a sudden, I don't know who it would be, the principal or the superintendent or somebody bursts in the door and goes, hold on, time out, you, come over here. And you had to like pick up all your stuff and everything, and you're like, okay, and you had to walk out. And some other person walked right in with some other stuff and sat down in your chair and started leading the meeting. That would be kind of embarrassing, right? Now, so that's what it's like to get taken out of the game. Now, if it's like late in the game, you know, 7th or 8th inning, and I'm just getting a little tired and the manager comes out to take me out, that's fine, because he'd come out, say something nice. Hey, Robbins, you're getting a little tired, man. We're going to get someone to replace you. But if it's like the 2nd inning and it's already 7-0, that's not so fun, because he'd come out, take the ball out of my hand. He usually wouldn't say anything, or if he did, it wasn't very nice. And I'd come off the mound upset, embarrassed, frustrated. And if we were on the road, you know, in the other team's ballpark, it was always worse, because as I'd walk into the dugout, there'd always be some mean, heckling fans right above the dugout saying horrible things, you know, about my mother, right? And then I'd go sit in the dugout. Nobody would talk to me, right? Watch an Angels game or a Dodgers game or Padres or Giants or A's or whoever. Just watch a baseball game on TV. See what happens when the pitcher does bad. That's what'll happen. Oh, leave him alone. He's upset. But you know what I could have used in those days when I was sitting on the bench after just giving up 7 runs in the 2nd inning? A hug. I don't know about a hug, but I mean, it would have been fine with me. It might have just scared some of my teammates, you know? But yeah, some kind of appreciation, not recognition. What are they going to do? Come over and go, hey, Robbins, great job, man. 7 runs in the 2nd inning. Woo! No, I had done a bad job. And in fact, not only did I fail personally, but my failure impacts the team. So our performance, what we do, has impact. So there's a level of accountability we got to create on our teams if we're going to have people produce and perform. Absolutely. However, as a living, breathing, often insecure, although I pretended not to be, especially in those days, human being, what I could have used when I failed was some appreciation. Not for what I'd done, but for who I am. And that's a place where I think we really get off track with this. It's not simply just thanking people for a good job. It's not simply recognizing results. That's a piece of it. It's being able to acknowledge people for who they are, not simply what they do.
Another thing that gets in our way about authenticity is we're afraid to look bad. How many of you have ever said something vulnerable, authentic, real, and it didn't go so well for you, right? People always come up to me and go, well, I was authentic once, but it didn't go well. Or I tried that, but you can't do that around here, or whatever they say. Look, it's like hardwired into us. I was running a few years ago in our neighborhood, and I was coming to my favorite part of the run, you know, the end, right? And I'm turning the corner, and I see our house, and I'm all fired up, and I'm not really looking where I'm going, but I see the house, and I'm like, song on my iPod, I'm like, yoo! I hit something on the, it was like a lip in the sidewalk, and I went down, flat on my face. iPod flew out of my hand, hat came off, I'm laying on the pavement, shocked, hadn't fallen down that hard in years. Caught myself a couple inches before my chin hit the ground. And you know what I did? As soon as I fell, before I stopped to assess, did I break my leg, I immediately looked up to see if anyone saw me, right? That was my main concern. And thankfully, I get up, I'm a little scraped and a little dirty, but I brush myself off. There's no one around, no one walking their dog. It was pretty early in the morning. And I'm literally like limping home thinking, at least nobody saw that. So it's like hardwired into us not to do something that will have us look bad. And here's what authenticity really is, the way that I understand it, define it, and work with champions and leaders and teams. It's about being vulnerable with each other. Mother Teresa said, honesty and transparency make you vulnerable. Then she said, be honest and transparent anyway. Are you willing to be vulnerable with your team? Are you willing to be genuine? Are you willing to talk about some of those elephants in the room? And say the stuff that may not make you look so perfect, but is the real stuff that needs to be said.
Now, self-appreciation can be a little tricky. Because imagine if I said to you, okay, I'm going to pass a microphone around, and one by one, I'd like each of you to stand up and tell all of us what's great about you. I know a couple of you were like, ooh, me, I'll go first, right? But for the most part, when I say that to people, most people think, ooh, that would feel a little uncomfortable, right? So appreciating ourselves can be this uncomfortable thing. We've been taught, right? I remember my mom taught me as a kid, don't brag, it's rude, right? People don't like it. And then we'd go places and my mom would brag about me to everybody. And I remember asking my mother when I was like 8 years old, hey mom, how come you get to brag about me and I don't? And she was like, huh, never really thought about it. I don't know, those are the rules, that's just how it goes, right? We're not supposed to brag about ourselves, but we're supposed to be confident. That's an important thing. It was up on a slide earlier, but we're not supposed to be too cocky and arrogant. Absolutely. But self-appreciation and arrogance are two totally different things. Arrogance is based on fear. Whenever I catch myself doing or saying anything that's even remotely arrogant, you know what it is? I'm feeling nervous or insecure in that moment. I'm wanting to impress someone. I'm wanting someone to like me. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I'm just aware of it. Self-appreciation, on the other hand, totally different. It's when we don't allow ourselves to listen to that little voice in our head, that little gremlin, I like to call it, and let the gremlin run the show. You know the gremlin, you know what I'm talking about, right? That little voice, constantly criticizing you. A few of you are going, what's he talking about? I don't have a gremlin. That's the gremlin. Right? And the gremlin, so self-appreciation sometimes looks like going for it, seizing an opportunity, saying yes, even if you're scared. Even if you're not sure.